Thank you, thank you. Hold the applause until the end of the show. Well, can you believe it? It's another round of Doing It Sober Live. Welcome to everybody who's tuned in live via Fireside Chat. My name is Chris Snell, sans Daniela Park. Daniela's absent this week, but God willing, we'll have her back. We wish her a speedy recovery. And we've got a wonderful guest for you. He's already logged himself in. And before we let him do the talking, we need to make him feel extra special. So let me just open up my press kit here. Here we go. Our visitor today, most certainly, if he didn't exist by force of nature, he'd have to be invented. That would be a characterization that the late Larry King once used in order to describe the late news pioneer Sarah McClendon. Michael Sargood is certainly the United Kingdom's bright light. He's charismatic, and he takes on life with a no-nonsense, light-hearted bearing. He's an influencer with his banner known as Happy Without the Hooch. He's also, as a result, set up a petition in order for better information on the age of use and health warnings on the packaging of alcohol. However, his philanthropic endeavors don't just end there. He's also the mastermind behind Southend Sober Socials, which puts emphasis on the rather apt practice of dry humor. Let me assure you, that is not a pun. Blackadder, Alfresco, not the 9 o'clock news, and a bit of Fry and Laurie doesn't have two bits on Michael and his troupe. The man is here, and we're proud to welcome him to our program. Michael Sargood, make yourself be known, matey. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. And what an introduction. I don't think I've ever had an introduction like that in my life. I don't feel worthy.
Oh, come on. Come on.
No, that doesn't
worthy.
happen.
Tell me something. Whereabouts in the UK are you situated, mate?
I'm situated in a town, well, actually today it became a city. The Queen declared that it's now a city of Southend-on-Sea. Right. She was, we had the Royals today in town, and that's about an hour east of London, just on the coast. So it's about the closest seaside town to London. So it's where a lot of Londoners will go in the summer for a day trip, get out the buckets and spades, have a walk down the longest pier in the world, and eat some disgusting shellfish that we're famous for. Normally cockles. Or whelks. I'm a bit of a whelk fan myself. Oh, God, you're choking just at the thought of them. They're not that bad with a bit of vinegar.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I love seafood. Calamari is where I literally draw the line in crayfish. I'm absolutely allergic to crayfish. But I imagine, it must be really a sight to behold. It's one of my bucket list places to visit. Now, Mikey, tell me something before we get to the good side. You know as well as I, every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Just so briefly, whereabouts did your alcoholism start? It was alcoholism exclusively, right? You didn't do any other substances?
I didn't get addicted to any other substances, so alcohol's been my problem drug, let's say.
So that was your Achilles heel, yeah?
Yep, that was my Achilles heel, and I suppose in a way it was my gateway drug. I've tried others, never really liked them, and didn't get involved in them. I tried them if I was drunk, and people had, I'd had too much to drink. I'd sometimes say yes, but that would normally be the end of it. But I didn't need anything else because I managed to ruin most of my life with the alcohol alone. I didn't need anything else on top. So,
well, if you only have one, what's the use of the others?
Exactly. So, yeah, it was a lucky sort of first strike for me. And I didn't really get into drinking until quite late for someone who's British. Most of the time, people here would start drinking at 12. But I waited until I was nearly of legal age at 18 over here in the UK. I think it's 21 in the States, isn't it? But
21 in the States, yeah. But here where I live, it was 18. Now it's 16. Believe it or not.
16. Okay, where's that then?
You're asking me.
So yes, and then 18. I was working in a pub. I was usually when you work in a pub in the UK, people will pay for their drinks and they'll say, take your own, and by the end of the night you've got enough for about 3 pints, which you then have to drink fairly quickly because the landlord wants to wants to go to bed often. So you've got 3 pints of beer, which you've got to drink in about half an hour. And I never really struggled with that. It wasn't much of a mission.
Oh, no.
And then I just sort of continued drinking sort of like in my 20s. It would typically be binge drink at the weekend, try and get myself, sort of right again for work on the Monday. By the end of my 20s, though, I just, I didn't just restrict it to the weekends. I think a couple of things had happened. I was in a really bad relationship at the time I didn't like, and I was planning to escape that. My best friend was going to put me up, my best friend since childhood, Juliet. So I was planning my escape, and then all of a sudden I lost her. She went into hospital on the Wednesday. She'd passed away on the Saturday, and I'd lost my best friend and my escape plan. And that's when I started buying drink on the way back from work as well. I just, instead of just keeping it to the weekend, I'd buy a small bottle of liquor, and I'd take it home, and I'd secretly drink it during the course of the evening whilst pretending I was drinking tea. Or coffee. I was making teas and coffees all night. Oh, would you like another cup of coffee? And they're thinking, why are you drinking so much tea? And it's only because it's got vodka or gin in it. Quickly discovered, though, that if you put liquor in a hot drink, then the fumes are very apparent. So I was having to put... Yeah, especially if it's something like whiskey. I mean, you're not going to disguise that.
Try vodka next time. Apparently it doesn't smell.
Vodka was the least pungent, let's say, so I would have cold instant coffee with vodka. I mean, it was absolutely disgusting, but it meant I could sit there in front of the television pretending to watch some sort of nature documentary whilst absolutely getting rat-arsed. And it was, it was a slippery slope. And then, all the way through my 30s, it became more. It wasn't a small bottle. And, I left that relationship, but the drinking pattern was well embedded by then. So I was still binge drinking at the weekend, which was my regular drinks plus other drinks at the pub. And then I was drinking. Sometimes I'd often give myself a Monday night off. My weekend gradually got longer. It started on the Thursday, and then it started on the Wednesday. Then it meant I was only having Monday and Tuesday off. And then after a while, I was finding that I was getting really sweaty and I'd be shaking if I didn't drink. So I was drinking on the Mondays and Tuesdays as well to fill the gap. So, it was sort of... it was quite insidious the way it sort of crept into my life, and actually physical alcohol dependence took over. So that was the backstory, and it was affecting my physical health. I lived when we used to work in offices. Do you remember those days when you actually used to go into an office? I haven't done that for a while.
I miss it.
I don't.
I miss it. I miss the people.
I get to see enough. I get to turn them off on the screen now, though. So you get to talk to them and have a laugh. And, and they can't come up to you and tap you on the shoulder and say, "Can you just do us a small favour?"
Or they don't flick you anymore with paper clips and with staplers anymore.
It was more the elastic bands actually, and I've got a brilliant aim. I've got the Anybody who flicked me with an elastic band soon learnt not to.
Come at you with peach shooters.
No, we didn't have those. Those were not allowed, but elastic bands were commonplace. And if I was aiming someone between the eyes, that's where it would land. So I tended not to be too much of a victim. And I was never gentle.
Remind me that I don't challenge you in darts.
Well, you see, it's because I'm very short as well, and I've got small man syndrome. So, yeah. I try and overcompensate by the ferocity of my elastic bands.
Well, matey, you know this as well as I. The taller you are, the harder you fall. The shorter you are, the further you fly. But big things come in small packages, namely TNT.
Yes, that is true as well. Very small, enough to bring down the Houses of Parliament. You can topple a regime with that.
And not necessarily on Guy Fawkes Day.
No, we're a little way away from that, aren't we?
But Mikey, tell me something. Where eventually did you decide it was time to call it quits?
Oh, most weeks, in fact. Most Monday mornings, full of regret, or Friday and Saturday and Sunday mornings. I was definitely never going to drink again. And then when I'd had a really shameful episode, like I'd woken up on the high street or on a roundabout and stuff, and this stuff happened regularly, or in a ditch, then I'd vow that I was never going to drink again. And normally that would last 3 days. And by that point, some of the shame and humiliation has subsided. Family members are beginning to talk to me again. And it's like, I reckon next time I'll just go a bit easier on it. All I need to do is practice moderation, because I've been practicing it for 20 years, which clearly isn't enough. So then, but I'm currently just over a year sober. So I first stopped drinking. It was actually in 2020 in the March. I decided enough was enough. I'd been really ill after drinking, and I was just lying, shaking, and I'd had fits as well. And I thought, I've got to stop this. And I went to live with my parents for a week to begin with. And then we were in lockdown. So I lived with them for another 3 months, before moving back home. And then I sort of started going out again. And at 7 months, I relapsed. I was trying to do everything the same as I always did, except with a Pepsi Max in my hand. Other brands are available, instead of a beer or a vodka, but it wasn't actually much fun. I was going to pubs. I wasn't really enjoying it because I was watching people get drunk, then trying to either babysit them, or I'd agreed to give them a lift home, which means you're the last person to actually go to bed because you have to shepherd everyone. And by the end of the night, you want to throttle them, and you've had a really lousy time. So I decided one night it had been a tough week, and I thought, actually, the people around me here in the pub, they don't know I'm not supposed to be drinking. No one else is going to know. I could have one tonight. And that one lasted 4 months, pretty much. And by the end, what was that?
That's my producer. That's my producer busy throwing in some sound effects for dramatization.
Well, that scared the hell out of me.
Well, it's adding to the ambience. It's supposed to scare people.
Well, it works. It's very scary. And then after that 4 months, I had another particularly bad couple of days actually, of drinking really heavily. And I went to bed. I woke up, felt awful, and that's when I woke up, realised actually with a bit of investigation that I hadn't just drunk, gone to bed, and woken up. I'd had a whole day in between where I'd got up and I'd been active, and I've just lost over 24 hours to blackout. And I thought that I've never lost a whole day before whilst I've actually been active as well. I'd stolen a large novelty sausage from the local supermarket, and I know that's not it's not my proudest achievement, and it's probably not the worst of rock bottoms. It was this very large Italian salami, priced at £4.99, I seem to remember. It was delicious.
£4.99?
Well, it was at Lidl. It's a discount supermarket, because that's where I got my vodka, because if I went there, I could get 700 mils of vodka for, it was £10. It was less than the packet of cigarettes. I mean, that's what it had come down to. And I didn't bother buying mixer, because that was money I could put towards my next bottle of vodka, obviously. And it just weakened the drink. So it seemed completely pointless.
Well,
so that was my
good on either Asda or Tesco's for making that possible.
No, it was Lidl, which is much cheaper than Asda or Tesco. Yeah. Good German discount brand. I mean, you get no service at all. They just sort of, you go up to the till and they take your goods, and then they don't even have an area where you can bag it. It just goes off the end of a cliff, and you've got to try and somehow catch it in a bag. And then if you don't do it within a few seconds, they snarl at you and and everybody hisses. It's horrible. But you can't floor them. You can't fault them on prices. If you could buy a full bottle of vodka for less than a packet of cigarettes, I mean, is it any surprise we're called Binge Drink Britain?
Big time. You know, I have no comeback to that, but let's get to the positive side now. You know,
yes,
I want to bring up a story, and you'll know this as well as I. There's a lovely gentleman who's influenced my way of thinking and my way of life and the way that I talk. I'm South African. I shed my accent when I was 16 because I went to an all-English prep school and we were taught Oxford, believe it or not.
Okay. Yes.
And we were taught the Bard, which is highly respected. One of my dreams is to still perform the Bard on stage. Give me any part. Give me any part in any play of Shakespeare. That's my dream. But back to the story that I wanted to tell about Stephen Fry, who you ought to know very
I knew
well.
you were
He's a
going to say
cultural
Stephen
icon.
Fry there.
Sorry about that. My microphone went dead.
That's okay.
Stephen went on a chat show once. So actually, he was actually speaking at Cambridge, and he said there's a difference between American humor and Brit humor. American humor is big, right? And I know Danny is an American. It's the Jim Carrey, it's John Belushi. They get the girl, and they walk around like they've got the biggest knob in the room. But then you get to English humor, and then it's a fact of I've walked to a party. Oh God, I forgot my knob. But the fact remains standing is we need to laugh about our mistakes, and that's more or less how you started. Laughing about the hooch. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it sort of encapsulated sort of what I'm trying to achieve in life. I do it for me, entirely selfish reasons. It helps me stay sober. I think it's like if other people like it, well, that's good. But I never got into journaling. But then I started on Instagram, just trying to post one thing a day about alcohol and recovery, and like all things, I actually started off fairly seriously, and this happens to everything I do. I try and do something serious, and then gradually I just become a little bit sillier, and then any sort of seriousness is gone fairly quickly. But that seems to go down quite well, because it can be a bit of a serious subject, can't it? Sort of, addiction. Sure. I mean, it takes lives, gives people diseases. It's all a bit nasty, isn't it? So I just try and take a light-hearted approach to it. I suppose. I mean, I always used to make I used to make a knobhead of myself all the time when I was drunk. It's just I didn't remember
myself.
Exactly. I just make a complete knob of myself drunk. So all of a sudden it's like, well, why be afraid of making a knob of myself sober? The only difference is I remember it now. I suppose that's a double-edged sword as well, though, sobriety, because there's so many things that you would do, and you could say, oh, sorry, I was drinking, I was drunk. Now when I do stupid things, I cannot use that defense anymore. Well, I can't say, you can't blame it on the drink when you've been on tea all day.
Let me level the playing field with you, Mikey. You talk about doing stupid things when you are pissed. I remember second year, I was busy with me exams, and I had to write a law exam. God, how terrible that is! Because I mean, you have to know every case number, you have to know every story behind it, yada yada yada.
Sounds hideous.
Big time, big time. I don't know how the Lord Mayor manages to get going, but there it is. And I wrote with a hangover. And there I go, and I write with this power drill to my head of a headache. And, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I failed. I'm not going to pass. And sure enough, I passed. 94%.
Yeah, performance-enhancing drug, isn't it?
Performance-enhancing drug, mate.
I convinced myself it was, because I got something quite similar with exams. I didn't go to university. Well, not for very long. I embarrassed myself and left. But before that, we have our A levels that we do when we're 18 in subjects we specialise in. And I was studying German, and I was very good at German. And we had our mock exams. One of the things I've always struggled a lot with is nerves. So the written exams and stuff's absolutely fine, but if I've got to perform or speak in an exam, that's when the nerves really kick in. It's the same with driving tests, except you really can't drink before those. And
unless you're really brave.
Sorry?
Unless you're really brave.
Or stupid. So I I realised that when I had some German friends, I went on a German exchange, and they said to me, we'd had some drinks whilst we were out there, because you can drink from 16 as well when you're in Germany. So that's what we did every day. And they said, Michael, when you have a couple of drinks, your German becomes a lot more fluent. And that's because I was more relaxed and stuff. So I did my mock exams completely sober, and I stammered all the way through because the nerves kicked in. I couldn't get my words out. I couldn't think straight. And I got a C, and I was absolutely devastated because I should have been like a straight A student in German. And so I remembered what my German friends had said about when I had a couple of drinks. So luckily, opposite my house, even though I was in a tiny village, opposite the house was the village store. And martini was quite cheap there for some reason. I think it was £4.99 at the time. That's aging me. It's about £14 now, I think. And I bought a bottle of that, and I drank about 3/4 of the bottle of martini on my way to college for the exam, which was taking place at 10 a.m. So I turned up really quite drunk because I was only 18. My tolerance to alcohol wasn't huge, and so I sort of staggered in. And I remember my teacher, who was the examiner, looking at me, clearly concerned for my welfare, that I turned up to do. I mean, I was applying for Cambridge University at the time as well, and I turned up for my speaking exam drunk. But I sat down, did the exam, and I didn't lose a single point, a percentage point. I got one of the highest. I didn't lose any points in that exam. I got full marks, and that was from a C to full marks, and it was all down to relaxing with the power of alcohol. And from that point onwards, I always convinced myself that alcohol made me do things better. It didn't make me walk better, or remember my keys better, or anything, or build better relationships with people.
Right.
But yeah, I convinced myself it was. And bowling as well. Rubbish at bowling. 10-pin bowling.
Big time.
Three pints, I start getting strikes. The rest of the time, if I'm completely sober, it just goes in the gully or whatever. And I start getting strikes after but 4 pints, and it starts going downhill. 5 pints, I'm rubbish again. So I always used to think there was this special little balance you could get. And if you could get it just right, then you'd be some sort of superhuman. And I spent about 20 years trying to perfect that, and always ended up as a drunken arsehole who was passed out on the street. So I've given up on that one.
Sure.
And I'm just trying to conquer nerves by doing scary things until they're not scary now, which is the reason I signed up for comedy.
That brings me to another point. I'm exactly at the same place that you once were, at one half year sober. You begin to doubt yourself. You begin to see life as it is. You start to think to yourself, okay, the filter's gone away completely. That's fine. But now you have to do this thing called life.
I know.
Can I do it without the booze? That £4.09 or 99 pence rather can actually go to bread and milk. Okay, that's great. That £4.99 can actually go to something like a comic book. Wow, I actually like this. And seeing life through those completely different filters nowadays, I like discovering the new me, the real me, changing me thinking, changing the way that I used to see life before I would grab the booze, before I would grab the drugs. How has your mindset changed after a year or so?
It definitely has. I mean, there are quite a few things that have changed. I'm just a lot more, immediately before I stopped drinking, I mean, my mental health had got so low that I was put under the care of the mental health team. I was walking around in circles. I was really depressed. I'd overdosed on prescription drugs, and I just really wanted to end things. That was it. I was done. I was spent. And then gradually, sort of after about 3 months, I was beginning to feel quite perky, which was a nice change. I mean, I was on some meds as well, but I was beginning to learn the joy of sleep, and I haven't unlearned that one yet. In fact,
neither have I.
I have little naps during the day now because I work from home. As soon as it's lunch,
wonderful, isn't it?
It's lunchtime. What I do is I just say, Alexa, set alarm for 1 hour, and then I lie down on the sofa and I have a nap every lunchtime. But the problem is now at the weekend, if I'm out, I start feeling tired, like my body is telling me, okay, it's nap time, and that doesn't always work out so well. But I'm enjoying sleep. I think I'm feeling a lot more restored from having quality sleep.
But what
I
about
love
when the
meeting
power
people.
goes? When the power goes out and there's no more battery life in your Alexa, do you get to sleep longer?
Oh, unfortunately, it's mains, so it. I have overslept a couple of times, to be honest. It's mains powered, but yeah. I mean, I have got a little couple of hacks if you do need some extra sleep. I mean, hopefully my boss isn't listening to any of this. But one thing I've noticed is that, well, there's a couple of things you can do, actually. If you need to get extra naps whilst you're supposed to be working, one way is you can run a little macro on your computer. You know, it says like once you're in Excel or something, and you can say macro and press numlock, and then it just repeats that, and every minute you'll press numlock, and that makes it look like you're busy typing. So that's quite an advanced way. Or if you're on a Microsoft Teams meeting, I've noticed, if everybody hangs up from the meeting and you don't, then your computer still stays on the whole time, and the little green light shows, so everyone goes, oh, look, they're working. Get an extra little nap in that way.
Well, as they say, if you can't dazzle with brilliance, baffle with bullshit.
As long as you get your work done. I mean, it might mean that you have to go back on a bit later in the evening and do our best, but sometimes you just need a nap.
You know what's the best part? You're saving money.
Yes, yeah, you are saving money by... How were you saving money? By napping?
On alcohol?
Yes. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant by napping. Like, napping is saving me money. I'm thinking, I don't know how that one works out.
That's only when you retire. Then you can save all your money and keep it in the bank account when you need it, and then you can just earn interest on the napping.
Oh, but that is actually the retirement thing. It's a bit of a sore point, actually, because that is something I've got to worry about now.
Forget it. I'm not gonna retire.
No, well, I'd like to. I'd like to do it today. But whilst I was drinking and smoking and being a wally, I never paid into my pension at work. I always opted out. The first thing I'd do when I started a job was I'd opt out of my pension. And it's because it's actually quite expensive, and I wanted that money for drink and fags. And so people say, oh, Michael, why have you opted out of the pension? It's like, well, I want the money now. So the amount I drink and smoke, there's no chance I'm going to get to pensionable age. And the alcohol and cigarettes are my insurance policy to make sure I don't. And now I've stopped drinking. It's like, oh God, there's quite a good chance I'll make it to something like beyond 70, and all of a sudden I'm going to be in poverty. So I'm now buying lottery tickets and scratch cards, and I'm hoping that maybe I've got I'm hoping I've got a wealthy maiden aunt out there who has no other relatives that I've never heard of, but hopefully she knows about me. Because otherwise I'm going to be sort of just, can you imagine the old people's home? It's going to be like a Victorian workhouse, isn't it? It's going to be...
They'll probably have plates for an extra couple of pound.
Oh God, they'll probably have ITV on all day, like terrible commercial television as opposed to BBC even, so I'd have to sit through the adverts.
Well, think about, at least you can see good reruns of the chase.
Oh yeah, there is that, I suppose. 5 o'clock, something to look forward to.
Michael, you're so much of fun. And let me just add this. The lady who started this podcast is American. I'm South African, English trained, and hearing someone from the UK just brings out the English in me, the Newcastle in me.
You're becoming a little bit more Yorkshire, actually. I think you're going further north as the program progresses. You'll probably be Scottish by the end.
Big time, because I love the English. You know, they taught me everything that I know. Because in South Africa,
it's a nice little effect.
Thank you, Danny. Here in South Africa, we've got a lot of mixed cultures, multi-ethnic. I don't know how much you're familiar with my country, but a lot of Englishmen came over here to. We were British colonialized back in the years of yore. And when I was 16, I was in this all-English prep school. People from Lancashire, Yorkshire, Newcastle upon Tyne, Geordie. So originally, when I started with this accent, which is the traditional Afrikaner accent,
Yeah.
that went all completely by the wayside, and I adopted the English way of life. I was taught the English style of speaking on the radio, championed by, give me good names, Michael
Des O'Connor.
Parkinson. Sorry, what was that?
I was going to say Des O'Connor.
Des O'Connor,
Who's more like
Jermaine, that rings true. I say again, Michael Parkinson.
Yes.
So many names.
Paxman.
And then, of course, sorry?
Paxman.
Jeremy Paxman.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. If I had to tell you what an influence he's been on South African talk radio, my
Really?
golly, Michael.
It's terrifying, isn't it?
Big time. Because the reason being is he asks the questions that other people don't dare. And he's not rude.
Oh, he is. Oh, he can be a little bit...
In my opinion, he isn't, because he just asks the same question the same number of times until he gets a response, and that might make him controversial.
Yes, well, you're allowed to do that with politicians. I mean, I did journalism training, and they said, like, ask people the question, sort of up to 2 times generally, but if they're a politician, asking them the question as many times as it takes to get a decent answer. So they're fair game. But yeah, he also has he does a program called University Challenge, and that's just like, it's like a quiz for students, and it's like he's using the same tactic, and I'm thinking, you don't have to be mean to the little students.
Sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. Let's be honest.
On a game show. Although Anne Robinson, I suppose.
I wanted to say, what about The Weakest Link?
Yeah? People know what they're letting themselves in for, don't they?
Big time. But Michael, I want to ask you something, and I'm not being stupid when I ask this. Am I going to see you sometime at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with your comedic skills?
I wouldn't like to forecast such a thing. I'm not sure I have that great comedic skills yet. I'm very much entry level. I only did my first proper stand-up last week. And it was, because I've been doing some improvised comedy, and that's part of like a group. And so it's more of a team effort. And you don't have to prepare anything. And I decided, without any experience, to do just a very small, it was like a 5-minute set at the which I did last weekend. In fact, I didn't even have a set properly. My aim was to go on stage, not have some sort of nervous or emotional breakdown, ideally make 1 or 2 people giggle, and then just survive. And I did that, and I've learned a lot from that, and I've put myself up for another one next month, and I've got a much better... 5 minutes is not... it flies past. You can't do much interaction and stuff, and there's a compare. They're there for that, I've decided. So I've got a lot more ideas. I'm going to try these, and there's little... You compete with others on the night, and I'm now feeling competitive. I reckon there's a trophy that's just over an inch tall, made out of plastic. That's the prize if you win. And I have never wanted a trophy so much in my life. It's like a shot.
I was going to say the same thing.
It's a shot glass, essentially, but plastic and gold.
Well, thank goodness it's plastic and it's not glass, because then, the old triggers might kick in. And then you think to yourself, oh, now I'm in the same space than what I was. But I really think that you've got talents. I've seen a couple of your videos. I've seen a couple of your routines. I think your chops in your improv and just the way that you are so positively deprecating about yourself, it rubs off on people, I think. And that's why I personally believe that your outreach with Help Me Write Again. I just want to go back to the kit. Southend-on-Sea Socials has been seeing such a good turnaround because of people who can identify with your humor and with your the message that you're trying to spread. Would you agree with me, or what has your experience been like with that?
Actually, it was so the Southend-on-Sea Socials, that came first, really, before I started trying to get involved, before I got involved in any comedy or artistic endeavours. Is fairly early on in my recovery, I decided that I'd had my relapse and everything, and then when I was back on the wagon, I thought, I'm not going to do things exactly the same. I don't want to go to the pub every night and watch people get drunk whilst I get grumpy. So I sort of put out an appeal in a local Facebook group to see if anybody else would be interested in socialising sober, if I could, alcohol-free on Friday and Saturday nights, if I could find a venue and some forms of entertainment. And I thought maybe 1 or 2 people would say yes, but I got quite a good response, especially on the coming out of lockdown. And I think a lot of people drank very heavily as their primary form of entertainment, and were rethinking their relationship with alcohol. And so I started putting on some sort of low-key events. We had musicians. This was comedy or music of it, live music, and since then, since Christmas, really, I've been focusing mainly on getting groups together and going to. There's a few alcohol-free events in London. It's really beginning to burgeon now. The sort of alcohol-free scene. So instead of trying, it was logistically a bit of a nightmare for me to get stock down to a venue. In a back of a tiny car, sell it, take it all back, doing that sort of on Fridays and Saturdays. And it's now that there's other events going on, I've got the Facebook group. Sometimes people have met through the group and they meet up, and we meet up for coffees and walks and stuff, or I get groups together to go to events that other people organise, which selfishly I prefer, because instead of having to do all the organisation, I can turn up as a guest and enjoy it myself as well. So that came first, and then it was through that I then started doing some of the comedy. I'd heard of the local sort of improvised comedy club, and actually I started that by complete accident. I'm a very disorganised person, and when I was trying to organise sober socials, I went along to this networking do that was going to be held in the same place that the comedy club is held. Except I turned up a week early, so I turned up all dressed for this fairly dull business networking thing, and I was like, looked around the corner, I thought, this doesn't look like networking. There's all the chairs out. And that's when I discovered I'd actually turned up a week early, and it was an improvised comedy night. And I thought, I've made it here now. I've come all the way here. I might as well buy a ticket. So I bought the ticket, watched it, and then on the way out, ended up being roped up into signing up to an improvised comedy course for 10 weeks. So that was quite fortuitous. It was just completely by accident. And I'm a really easy person to sell stuff to. I mean, it doesn't take much convincing.
Tell someone dog shit is horseradish, you'll eat it.
Oh, I love horseradish. I eat it out the jar just with a spoon. The hotter the better.
Case in point. But I really think you're a talented comedian. Discovering that facility about yourself must be really refreshing, isn't it?
I've got some good feedback from people, actually, sometimes, and that is, it's a form of self-validation, isn't it? And it gives you a bit of dopamine, and you can get a natural rush and high out of it. And I'd known that this course actually existed for ages, and I thought, I'd love to do a bit of improvised comedy, but there's no way on God's green earth that I'm going to get up on a stage and potentially make a complete idiot of myself by failing to be amusing. And as I said, I mean, I'd always suffered badly from nerves. I did my driving test 4 times because I couldn't keep my legs still on the pedals.
Neither could I.
That's what was just shaking so much. And so the idea of actually going on a stage. And then at the end of the course, I mean, I'd been sober for a good while and had to go out and socialise and, walk into rooms full of strangers and stuff. And I got used to it. And I saw a couple of the other people who were going on stage for the first time, because some other people had started at the same time as me, and they're like watching them down a pint and sort of shaking a bit because they're so nervous. And I was thinking, why aren't I nervous now? I was like, this is normally the point I'd have some sort of breakdown. And I thought, maybe I'll just be typical me and I'll be fine until I actually have to say something, and then I'll spontaneously combust. No, I didn't get nervous, and I haven't done since. Even when I went on stage completely unprepared for this stand-up thing, I didn't write anything down. I mean, that was all practice. So those are 2 notes I've made. But I still wasn't nervous, even when I wasn't brilliant. I wasn't going on there to be brilliant. I think it's because I've set my expectations lower as well. Because my aim.
If you want to go anywhere, set the expectations lower. Universe is your oyster.
Take the pressure off myself. It was my first time on stage, so I wasn't going on there hoping to win the prize when other people have been there for sort of weeks and months and done loads of practice. I wanted to go on there and survive. And if I was slightly amusing, well, that's a bonus. And that really does take the pressure off. And then so you can just relax into it and enjoy it. And if you're enjoying it, other people tend to be enjoying it more. So,
right.
I mean, if I'm still in 10 years' time, I haven't made any improvement, I might jack it in. But for now, I'm pleased just to see progress.
Well, it's a control here. But I say again, what I love about it is that you're so self-deprecating, but in a good way. In recovery, we learn that off, but you've actually made it your superpower. And I think you don't seem like a man that just wants the tap on the shoulder. You make the best of every situation, and not a lot of people can say that. It took me 2 years to accept myself and actually laugh at my shortcomings and say to myself, I am growing because of this. But it all happens in the back of the head, right? Mm-hmm. And what you have done, I stand in awe of you, truthfully. I stand in awe of you, truthfully, and, you have my unabated respect with what you have struggled with. You're very, very open, and even though you've been very succinct with what you've went through and how you've chronicled your struggles and how you've actually made the negative into a positive, I've always said to a lot of people, you have to laugh at yourself. Now, sure, I can tell people it's okay to laugh at yourself, but they need to experience it for themselves to understand it. And for you getting it right at 1 year, not blowing smoke up your skirt, but you can be proud. You can be proud.
Thank you very much.
It's going to be a pleasure. It's going to be a pleasure to see you grow and grow and grow. And see this as a challenge, but I would like to see you at shows. Give it a try when the time is right. Edinburgh Festival Fringe, or hell, even do a TED Talk. Those are virtual nowadays.
Yes, I'm nodding as if I've ever really watched a TED Talk or know really what it is. I'll Google it though. Look, I'm a bit of a dinosaur with this stuff. And I'm online now, but I didn't get Instagram until last year, until September last year. I sort of downloaded it and thought, what's this about? Because I thought it was for young people. And I resisted getting a mobile phone until I was 28 because I had an answering machine at home. And I thought, if I'm out, I don't want people to call me. So I want to go out. I want to read a book. No one knows where I am. They can't bother me. That's the point of going out, surely. So I didn't get a mobile phone until I was 28. And actually, I kind of miss that. I miss just being able to disappear on a Saturday morning and go to a cafe with a book and no one knows where you are and you've got that time to yourself. But so, yeah, I'll maybe a TED Talk. I'm getting a little bit more digitally savvy now. Might check that out. But yes, I'm going to be doing a few more sort of gigs, small ones in London and maybe a couple local to me in Southend. There's not much of a scene here because it's like a population of 180,000, so it's not the biggest place in the world, but it's got a nice little comedy scene. But we're quite close to London, so I can grow. So I'm just going to try and perfect like a 5-minute type piece first and then see if I can get some longer ones as I build up the material and become sort of hopefully a little bit more adept at it.
Well, you know what, Michael? You've had me in stitches for almost an entire hour. That in itself is a testament to your talent. And I think, not talking down to you, I'm trying to motivate you here, but I think there's an untapped talent that's starting to emerge within you. And believe me when I say I'm excited with you and I'm elated with you to see where the road goes. I hear exactly what you're saying. Baby steps. Baby steps. I wanted to spin records for the rest of my life as for entertainment to earn some money. But now I'm in a completely different position, and I'm loving it.
Brilliant.
And that's an experience that you're having, and you owe it to yourself.
I'm hoping, like, if I do get a bit better at it, and that it could be my escape from civil service, because I mean, yeah, I've had enough of that now. So if I can get out of that trap, that would be wonderful. But at the moment, I'm very happy for it to be a hobby.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm enjoying life at the moment, and I can't say I've enjoyed most of my adult life. So it just feels like a really privileged position.
You're reborn.
Yeah, not re. Well, yeah, I suppose reborn. In a way, I think a lot of comparisons are made, aren't they? When people go sober, they compare it to sort of emerging as some sort of beautiful butterfly, and I agree with some of that. Like, certainly when I first stopped drinking, I started eating a lot, like the very hungry caterpillar. It was mainly jelly sweets, and I cocooned myself away for quite a long time. And I was hoping to emerge. Yeah, jelly babies are lovely, and wine gums are my favourite. And or maybe let's see, I'm still allowed those. I
or sour worms.
Sorry.
Or sour worms.
Well, we have oh my god, fizzy worms! Don't get me started. I bought a 2 kilogram box of jelly sweets for trick-or-treaters at Halloween. And I live in a first floor flat, and I have never had any trick-or-treaters, but I didn't want to be caught unprepared. And it was sort of kind of locked down as well, so we were being advised not to trick-or-treat. So consequently, yeah, there was no one came for the sweets, and no children came, and I didn't want them to go off. I believe in zero food waste. It's a strict policy in my household. So I ate them within 2 days. Didn't share any, not a single one, just a kilo a day of Haribo. So yeah, the sugar addiction hasn't exactly gone since.
I'm still working on it myself, and I'm working on year 4 of sobriety.
So we've got to do this in order to, come out of our cocoons healthy, haven't we? I decided though that I'm never going to be a butterfly. I was very excited and expectant, but I came out as a moth, and everyone was hoping for a butterfly. Came out as a moth, and I'm quite happy with that,
And tell me something. Where did your awareness start of getting proper labeling on alcohol? How did that whole awareness thing start for you?
I think somebody else had pointed out to me as well, like the disparity that you have in this country, at least in the UK, between the way we handle cigarettes and the way we handle alcohol. So in the UK, cigarettes aren't allowed to even be on display they have to be closed away behind cupboard doors when they're on sale. And for ages, the packaging on them has just been plain and has graphic pictures of sort of manky old lungs that are covered in tar. And it doesn't look very appealing. I always used to joke it's like the worst advert I've ever seen, but that was kind of the point. Yet, in order to get to this aisle of cigarettes, the cigarettes behind the counter, you go past a third of the shops, usually alcohol, and it all looks beautiful. The wine sort of trodden by virgins at a full moon, and that is still, maybe if not advertised, it's still very attractive looking, and our culture still glorifies alcohol and its wonderful social qualities. And a lot of people, I started this petition, and I didn't get a very good response from a lot of people locally. There's quite a few people who are upset by my idea of changing the labelling. It's like you'd have thought I was trying to ban alcohol and snatch the special brew out of their hand mid-sip. But it was... I got some of the point that cigarette smoking is more dangerous for the person. Potentially, you've got a higher risk of cancer than you have of drinking alcohol. But it's just, if we what we fail to see with alcohol is that there are so many harms that alcohol brings to not just the individual, but to society, that smoking simply doesn't. I mean, people don't tend to go out, smoke 20 cigarettes, then go home and beat their wife up. In the same they might do with alcohol. Or they don't smoke 20 cigarettes and then decide to climb a telegraph pole, fall off and die. I mean, there's so many other, because it's so mind-altering, there's so many other harms that alcohol brings that are in many ways worse than cigarettes, yet it's still openly sold, glorified, and doesn't face any of the restrictions that cigarettes do. And I just thought it'd be good to get that conversation going, because I don't think if with adults today, I don't think adults are going to change their opinions of alcohol just because of a change of labelling, but that was never the idea with cigarettes. It's for a generation of children to grow up seeing alcohol as something that's ugly and a bit dirty, which is how they see cigarettes now. They'd much rather have a vape. And if we could change labelling and the presentation and advertising of alcohol in the same way, then maybe the younger generation have got a better chance of not getting caught up in all its dangers. So,
I agree with you. You know, I think, and you can disagree with me on this, I'm open-minded, and if people tell me I'm judgmental, I appreciate it. But the pandemic has opened a complete Pandora's box with regards to social issues. Narcissism, trauma, sexual abuse, and plus also awareness. I do agree with you that there needs to be better information on cigarette packaging and on alcohol about the dangers. Try it at your own risk. You and I, we have an addictive personality, so sadly we're going to abstain from that. Agree? But it's sadly become commodity where, you know, play Russian roulette, see if you're going to miss it or if you're going to get a shot in the head. And today's youth, because of this pandemic, are a lot more at risk, I believe, not just for the factors that I've just mentioned, but for even an array more. And you know what? I think you should tap yourself on the shoulder as well. I said this to someone else a few days ago. If you get someone who gets upset with you because of your initiative, you must cheer because you've planted the seed. Somewhere along the line, they're going to think to themselves, Michael actually made a good point. And ultimately, you win. And having spread that message. And I get it, you know, that not everyone's going to get your intentions on the first go. That's sadly life, you know. People are people. But I implore you to carry on in good stead. Carry on with what you're doing. Where the one person may not hear, they will listen, but there are going to be silent masses who are going to become louder and louder and louder. It's all just, you know, carrying on. That's all that we can do to it.
Well, the main reason I had for launching the petition, I wasn't expecting to succeed in it. It was just a petition by sort of some short bloke in Southend about alcohol. It wasn't likely to succeed, but what I did want to do was stimulate conversation in my local community, and it seems to have done that. It's pissed a lot of people off, so that's an emotional reaction. So that's a positive in my book. It got people talking, got some people angry, and then it triggered conversation. And if people are talking about something, then that might cause them to rethink. Some people are going to be entrenched in their views and they're never going to change it, but it might cause one or two people to think, actually, why do we treat alcohol so differently to cigarettes? I mean, we used to glamorize cigarettes in exactly the same way. It was sexy, it was plastered over sort of film posters, but we've managed to change people's views on smoking. Well, maybe in 50 years' time, we'll have managed to change people's views on drinking as well. I'm sure there'll be some sort of new substance that everyone will be addicted to instead, but part of me thinks that it's like a part of society. We've got to allow the masses to have one legal drug, and we've decided that it's alcohol.
Pills aren't enough.
Sorry?
Headache pills aren't enough.
No, they don't work for me. I've tried. I'm coffee and E numbers for me these days.
I hear you, but you raise a good point. And Michael, we've still got 6 minutes to go. You're more than welcome to. We can chat a little bit further. Actually, the one question I want to ask you quickly is getting back to your comedy. You said it was improvisational. It's within a group. Have you thought about perhaps telling your road to recovery in a comedy routine, or are you more happy with more the improvisational?
Well, see, I'm doing that. So what I've done is the improvised comedy as part of a team. I've done a couple of nights of that, and I've got a couple more coming up. But what I did last week was stand-up for the first time. And as I said, it's only a short set at the moment, but I'm looking to develop it. And that was based on some of my experiences of trying to give up the booze. So, because I wanted it to be a platform for talking about alcohol and recovery, because people are usually fairly inebriated when they're watching a comedy as well. It's quite a good place to find people who could probably benefit from sobriety. So that's my target audience, really. Do it as a comedic crash course for people who probably should be rethinking their relationship with alcohol. I'm going out to the masses to proselytize like some sort of missionary. They don't realize I'm doing it because they're laughing.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard me laughing me head off. And becoming more English with Michael Sargood. Michael Sargood has initiated the initiative called Happy Without the Hooch. We invite our audience, those who have attended and those who are going to be watching on demand, to visit Michael on his Instagram handle at Happy Without the Hooch, all in succession, and then at Southend Sober Socials, also on Instagram, and you can see some of his humor. Please give it a round of applause for Mr. Michael Sargood. Mate, thank you so much for coming onto the show. We are extremely proud of you. I say it especially. I'm elated for everyone who takes a good positive step in the right direction. And, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being so transparent and making me laugh. I truly needed it. And, just accepting me for who I am, even though I sounded extremely linguistically the opposite direction, but it's just natural. As I said, when I'm in the midst of Englishmen, I become more English because I'm English trained. I love the English as well, and I love your insights. I love your the story, the stance that you took. Not many people can boast it, and I want to see more comedy content from you, brother. You've made a friend for life.
Thank you so much. I've very rarely felt such love, and that introduction. I mean, if you could just email it to me, I might try and use it as an employment reference at some point, a character reference, in case I've got any court cases coming up or something. That'd be particularly helpful.
I'll hear your case for you, and I'd like to say to our audience, thank you so much for joining in. Please, whenever we do this live, I know that a lot of us, this is still a relatively new podcast, we invite people to come and ask us questions. You can ask our guest, most importantly, questions with regards to sobriety, their way of life, anything that comes across your mind. We want to encourage open conversation. Please don't be shy. And we're also going to start practicing giveaways on our show. And especially a great thanks to Daniela for letting me drive this solo. Michael, thanks again. Look after yourself. God bless, mate. Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you so much.